Hello and welcome to the Brussels Press Club. My name is Catherine Feore and I'm delighted to welcome the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Uganda,
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Minister Jeje. And we're here today to discuss a recent resolution of the European Parliament. Minister, the Parliament, at its last plenary session, adopted a resolution that was very critical, not just of Uganda, but also of Tanzania. What is your response?
First of all, Catherine, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you very much for giving me this chance to be able to share our views and our reaction to the resolution passed by the European Parliament on the 15th of September. A resolution, in our view, which was critical of the activities in relation to gas and oil program in my country, together with our neighbors at Tanzania. I think the focus of the relationship was the East African oil pipeline, which runs from the oil fields in Uganda at a place called Hoima on the western part of the country, through southern Uganda, into northern Tanzania, all the way to the coast at Tanga. So this is the focus of that resolution. And I think from the outset, I can say that resolution, whereas it focuses on really two main areas, environmental issues as well as human rights issues, I think it was based on wrong facts.
And where do you think they've really misunderstood what's happening with Uganda, and in particular with this pipeline?
I think let's have some background in relation to the oil pipeline in Uganda and Tanzania. First and foremost, it is important for us to understand that one, this is not the first ever oil line of that nature in the world. They have been built elsewhere. So this is just one of the pipelines in the world. Secondly, the Ugandan, the pipeline, the East African oil pipeline that we're discussing, the genesis to that oil line must be born from the fact that an assessment was carried out to determine which was the most optimal route from the oil fields to the coast. We actually took a study of three possible routes. One route from the oil pipeline or from the oil fields through the north at a place called Lachar in Kenya up to the port of Lamu in Kenya. Another study took the route from Hoima through western Kenya up to Mombasa. And the third one was from Hoima through southern Uganda, northern Tanzania, up to Tanga port. And studying all the three options, we found that the most economically optimal was the route to Tanga, the one we are now discussing.
The Parliament, I mean, the green issue is a very big one for the European Parliament, for the EU in general. We've got COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in November. What would you say to those people who say, well, who are just really anti-oil in general? What would your message be?
Thank you very much, Catherine. I think what is important for us to understand and appreciate is that we must look at the argument against oil vis-a-vis the energy requirements in as far as Africa is concerned. Africa is called the dark continent, not by mistake, because if you flew up in a satellite and you looked down, you would find that Africa indeed is actually dark because there is a shortage of power on Africa. So our desire is that we, in order to be able to develop and remove poverty from our people, and therefore with a better enhanced wealth of our population, we will be able to serve and protect the environment better. So our desire is that we use the available resources, natural and otherwise, in our countries to be able to develop our populations to even better protect the environment, which partly is the concern of this resolution.
And can you say if there is you work probably with the European Commission as well on different issues. Would you say that there was disapproval or lack of support for what you're doing within the EU more widely, or is this coming from the Parliament alone?
I think partly there is also a misunderstanding of the workings of the EU generally, because to my rudimentary understanding of the EU, there are three important institutions: the Council, the Commission, and the Parliament. And I think the other two, the Council and the Commission, generally understand that there is a necessity for Africa, and in this case Uganda, to continue to cooperate in as far as possible in all these areas. And in this particular instance that we are discussing, I have not picked any sense of opposition on the part of the Commission, neither have I picked any sense of opposition on the part of the Council. This, I think, was really limited to the Parliament. But even having come to Brussels now for a week and had opportunity to discuss with various institutions, even within the Parliament, the opposition is limited to only certain small circles within the Parliament.
And Uganda more generally, are you looking at renewable sources of energy as well as other ways to electrify and, like you say, get electricity to more, those more remote parts of the country that suffer from not being able to have access?
Our energy plan is to have a mix. And our argument is that before we rush into renewables, which at this instant in the development trajectory are still very expensive. If you look at wind energy, solar energy, you'll find that the unit cost is much, much higher. And so we are saying we have the intention to transition. But before we get there, we should begin from somewhere. And we should begin by exploiting the resources nearest to us to enable us develop capacity so that we can transition to the renewable sources of energy.
At the start of her mandate, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, she made a great issue out of the EU's relationship with Africa. Her first visit was to the offices of the African Union. What do you think that Europe can do more to improve its relationship with Africa?
I think during the last EU-AU summit that was held here in Brussels in February this year, she made precisely that commitment, and she followed it on by action. And I think she has demonstrated that the EU Commission and the African Commission, and therefore Africa and Europe in general, have a lot to do together, and the future is much brighter.
Minister, thank you very much indeed.
My pleasure indeed.